Hey, what's up? Welcome to the Lizzie and Me podcast. And right here, right now, we're going to invite the other people on and we're going to get started. Hopefully sooner than later. What up? Arturo. So, the topic is microdosing the darkness. I believe that there is power in the darkness. But also, we could tap into too much darkness. Hey, Corona, how are you doing?
Hi everyone, I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm doing excellent. So the
Happy to
topic
be here.
is microdosing the darkness. I believe that during dark times, darkness helps us see the light. And a lot of times we waste so much energy in our little communities not moving towards progress until we hit the threshold that we hit enough darkness that we make the necessary change. We say, oh, we don't have enough time. We're not educated enough. We don't have this. But all of a sudden, when enough darkness comes, that's when it opens up to seeing the light. And I believe that life is about contrast. And the darkness helps us see the light. And I think it's a human condition that's very, very limiting. So I want this podcast to be about microdosing the darkness, because you could take this much darkness, or my hands are like way out from side to side, way out here, or this much darkness to make change. The better you get at being able to tap into this much darkness, the more that will be there. It can just be, instead of like partnering with people on projects for 6 months and you think that you have a dependency and you need them, and all of a sudden you haven't accomplished anything in 6 months, and then they say, oh, you're stupid, da, 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 and then all of a sudden it blows up and you're creating that cycle again and again. You can just be walking down the street and somebody gives you a dirty look, and then all of a sudden you go to that dark place and you get focused. You get out of the way of yourself and your dreams. Because ultimately, it's us that's in the way of our dreams. And although that could be pretty frustrating, that's a beautiful thing. So, Corona.
Yes.
With your permission, I would like to talk about what we were talking about earlier today.
Uh, okay.
Since you love when I do this.
I like how you always seem to catch me off guard for things. I'm not mad at it. I think it's always exciting.
So it's that chaos that opens that it's what I'm doing is I'm skipping the darkness and I'm going to that chaos,
Directly
that
to the source.
unpredictable thing. Occupy Wall Street was approaching 10 days and it was dwindling out. And they were walking across the bridge and the police said, don't go in the street. Don't go in the street. They went into the street, and then all of a sudden the police created violence against them. And then Occupy Wall Street went global. So what I just did with you, I did the same thing without having to take a chance of potential violence. Because I think violence is in nature. I'm going to acknowledge that. A gun can protect a bunch of people, but it also can kill.
Right.
So it's finding the right balance. It's not the tool, it's the wound and the unhealthiness of whatever it is. So go ahead and tell me about the project that we're working on and what your resistance was earlier.
Okay, so some of y'all have already kind of reached out regarding this, and we've been just posting it on our stories, and Steve's done a really good job about putting together graphics and whatnot on his page, and we're just resharing right now. But for the most part,
Nick,
um,
tell the people for the project, like some of them, just say that what the project is.
so the project is called Mama Coco Redesión. And it's basically us trying to get Disney to be held accountable for taking snippets of people's real story, right? Because the movie Coco, for those who have seen it, revolves around the story of a family in Mexico,
Around the
um,
dead, around the Day of the Dead.
Day of the Dead specifically, yes, and how Miguel kind of goes on this venture um, to find who his grandfather was, right? But a lot of the time in this story is we're not given we're not given real real historical context, right? They just kind of Disney. So what Disney did, for those of you who don't know, is Disney actually went to Michoacan, to the town of Pátzcuaro. They stayed there about a month, and they did their research. They picked out a story, they picked out a location, and you can see in the film, and if you were to visit Pátzcuaro, you can see how there's a heavy influence of actual real depictions of people there, places, different photographs that they used to influence their images or in their film, right? And Disney denies that they did this, and they obviously have made so much money from using this story. And I think Steve, you shared that with me at one point that they tried to trademark Day of the Dead, which is pretty big, right? It's like trademarking part of somebody's culture.
And you said that Day of the Dead is in Mexico is like almost like Christmas. It's that popular.
It's yeah, it's a big celebration for people where they basically honor people who have passed. It starts on the first and it ends on the second, so it's like a day long celebration. Though a lot of these altares, the altars, they do stay up for longer.
Yeah, yeah. So I like Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs and a lot of these stories
Mm-hmm.
were all around the globe. Different
Mm-hmm.
stories. So in China, there might be messages around Buddhism within it, or in Mexico, there might be different things. And what Disney did is they took those stories and they monetized them. And what they did is they Disneyfied them. The,
Mm-hmm.
and what was
your mommy.
yeah. So and I think personally, as an artist, sometimes it's hard to get approval. I think that movie is a good movie, and I don't think that's the gripe. I think, and they might be within the law. That's not the question. But I'll put it on myself. I impersonate Bob Marley, and when I go into it, I feel I have permission from the family. I have permission directly from Bob. I truly believe that. And people have asked me to go Jamaica for a longer period of time, and I just like never would feel comfortable like all of a sudden just like going into Jamaica as Bob. And I said for the longest time when I was doing it earlier that if I go there, somebody's going to pay me a lot of money, and I'm going to be investing in Jamaicans to buy houses and do that. Otherwise, why do I need to go there? And a perfect example is 6ix9ine, how he would go into the gang culture. When I saw it, I understood exactly what I was thinking and feeling. He would go into the gang culture and he was kind of calling people out and everything, and being part of the gang culture and exploiting that. But he wasn't necessarily, well, maybe like he had gang members around and they're funneling money through it and everything like that. But I'm talking about he wasn't uplifting mankind with what he was doing. So when I look at Disney and what they're doing, I think of them as broke motherfuckers. Because what like Mexico, $25 in Mexico will go a long way. And I'm
Right.
sure when they came there and they're doing the stories and everything like that, that changed some things. I'm not questioning that. But if they're going to take that story, they're going to try and trademark the story so they can buy products, then how are they giving back to the community? And I may be wrong. They may be giving back to the community. My goal is for them to answer these questions and also hold ourselves accountable as much as we would want Disney to hold Disney accountable. So going back to the darkness and the focus of this, one of the things that came up for you was that somebody asked you to start a GoFundMe page. And you didn't want to start the GoFundMe page because they're taking a certain percentage.
Yes.
I have a question for you. If this project wasn't happening and somebody came to you and said they're only paying the people that work for GoFundMe $10 an hour, what would you say?
That's not even a living wage.
So you can't argue both sides.
Right. You're right. You're right.
So it's one of those things. Is that's where that 20% is going to, and I shifted the way I look at it. Is like that's a powerful thing on your team. If we would be spending money towards a website, a lot of nonprofits don't do that. If we get to keep 80% and we're not taking any of that money and we're giving it all to people in Mexico to do stuff, that's very, very powerful. We can't expect people, especially when we're not willing to do it. We can't expect people to walk at the level that we're walking. We have to push ourselves, and if they want to keep up, they want to keep up. If you want to get my time, you got to keep up a little. You can't just be saying like shit that everybody says. So the process that I went through, and I want to bring everybody back first full circle on it of it. The process that I went through is, when you say that, I feel a wound. Maybe it's in a different part, maybe it's my knee or whatever. And then I feel that pain. That's step one, is acknowledging where the wound is. And then step two is I feel that pain and then I breathe into it. And then I ask myself, which path is the most compassionate and life affirming? And then I let that guide me. And then I was saying, I gave you some information, but it's like, we'll find somebody we'll start a GoFundMe page. We'll find several places in Mexico of people that are indigenous you're indigenous to that area, but you live in LA. Indigenous to each individual communities, and they're knowing stuff that should be done. And they have what I like to call the eyes of Gandhi, which they are carrying other people's pain on them, and they're going to get the fuck out of the way. And some people never reach that over their lifetime, and most people that do reach it temporarily. Then it's like, oh, it's like I run into people, they get a girlfriend, then all of a sudden they can't work on a project. You're one of the few people that I've come across that will work on a project without me having to pay you.
Because there's value. I see the value, right? And the impact. And I don't think a lot of people care about impact.
And a lot of people that, and I don't want to point blame at anybody, and a lot of these people are, how come nobody wants to do anything? And then they're also, how come nobody wants to do anything? And they're also looking for somebody that's exactly part of their tribe, and they're spending so much time because they haven't healed their own wounds. And it's like peeling the onion. There's always more steps to heal your wound. That's why they call it a practice, because you're continually practice to healing it. And sometimes you're perfectly healed, and sometimes you're not. It changes from moment to moment.
Right.
And a lot of times when that pain comes up, it's because you're ready to deal with it.
Wow.
So a lot of times we are passively just accepting stuff But all of a sudden, when we start to get mad, it's because we're ready to do something about it. So going back to the steps, feel your pain. It could be a physical thing in your knee. It could just be an emotional thing, and just like feel it, and then breathe into it. Like it. You're just like, fucking, this is awesome. Like all of a sudden, I'm gonna put something in front of me, and I'm gonna deal with it, and I'm gonna free a lot of other people that are able to do this. I mean, I went through a lot of shit to learn stuff like this. A lot of fucking shit. And I'm just sharing. I mean, sometimes I tell a story to share more of it, but I do it so other people don't have to go through the shit I went through. Willingly, I must say. So acknowledge the pain, feel it. And then just like you're putting it in front of you. And then guide yourself with which path is the most compassionate and life affirming. Can you write that in the chat?
Yes.
Which path is the most compassionate and life affirming? Which path is the most compassionate and life affirming? Because if we're mad at our mom, mad at our friends, mad at the community, it would be a different question. And we're not really in the place to create a sustainable solution until we acknowledge something, breathe into it, connect with it, put it in front of us. That's the darkness. That's the thing that we don't fucking like. We're not going to give that any more energy. We're going to heal that by guiding ourselves which path is the most compassionate and life affirming. I'll give you an example.
Quick question before you continue. Is it safe to say that when there is a blockage, that is part of the negative energy?
So, yes, but also the fact that it's negative energy could be a judgment. Because you know how electricity is created?
Right.
You take negative and positive energy.
Right.
So if you want to do great things,
for there to be a flow.
Yeah, for it to be a flow. So I had a sign and self-sabotage. Great, Arturo. I saw a sign earlier that says "Do not block the intersection." So we set some goals and everything. We got some things going, and then when somebody offered you something, people give you a lot of fucking bad ideas. And this is a good way, to kind of push. I'm reading Justin's thing. Can you read that?
The most compassionate and life-affirming is communicating and speaking your truth. Healing and forgiving is about you and accepting what happened in order to move on.
Thank you, Justin.
It's truth.
Thank you for that. And the truth is, yeah, putting it in front of you, because we could have spent all day talking about how it's bullshit that GoFundMe takes 20% or whatever their cut is.
And I want to share with the viewers where that stems up from in my journey. So some of you know I've shared in the past on the live that I've done a lot of activism work. And most of it was rooted within student activism. And so back in San Diego State, whenever we had different causes, we would typically try our best as an organization or different organizations to set somebody down as a treasurer, right? So that way the treasurer was able to collect fees, money, and then we would distribute it that way, right? Versus going through GoFundMe and having them kind of manage our fees for us. But But I agree with Steve. I had to kind of sit back and think about all of the work that really does go into managing fees and being responsible for that money, and also where is this money going to be put? How are we going to make sure that this money isn't stolen or isn't tampered with, that kind of thing. So it took me some time to kind of sit back and realize that, hey, like, GoFundMe can be a great partnered business with us. Um, because I mean, it's trustworthy, right? A lot of people do use GoFundMe. There's a lot of different causes that go through that avenue. So that's kind of where that stemmed from.
Yeah, we can even go back to Amazon. Like I go back and forth with Amazon,
Mm.
but
Mm-hmm.
I'm in my early 50s, and I can remember a time that was probably most of my life. I don't know when it changed. That when I was a kid, you'd order something, you had to wait 4 to 6 weeks to get it. That's what it said in the marketing. You like had to wait 4 to 6 weeks to get it.
I don't
So
think I remember times like that.
yeah, and it's like it's that one thing I could like be thinking about that. So a good question is because anytime I have passengers in my Lyft that work for Amazon, I don't get mad at them and everything like that. I ask them if they're treated fairly because even when especially when I hear stuff in the news is like do you are you treated fairly? Are you okay within that? And a lot of them say, "Oh yeah, it's fine. This is easy to do." Some people say, "Hey, it can be a little bit at much and everything." But I personally I've seen stuff written, but and I acknowledge that that stuff happens. I personally in San Diego talking to 10 to 15 people randomly when I'm listening and totally because I like if I heard like several, I would just like I'd be cool not ordering off of Amazon anymore. But mind you, you might be ordering from a site that they get their stuff from Amazon. Or I talked to you about like a lot of the stuff that people order from China, people order them from just order from Amazon, just like somebody that has enough money to warehouse that stuff, or Amazon's warehousing that stuff. So it's one of those things that you really have to like look through. I was like, okay, I want to get on GoFundMe, but I also want them to have their staff to have a living wage. So it's like it's pretty tricky. Or the Me Too, a lot of people, women are like mad at all men, but a lot of women are
Mm-hmm.
raising those men,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
them being mad at them isn't going to help.
Mm-mm.
Them emasculating men isn't going to help.
Right.
It's a collective problems need collective solutions.
Solutions.
So another way that I like to and if anybody has any questions, please share them. Another way
Mm-hmm.
I like to microdose the darkness is I don't even know if it's just grounding myself. I spend a lot of time walking barefoot.
Mm.
Um, and we lost sight, like you could say back pain, like a lot of these different things are just like us not being aligned with nature, us not going up in there. Constipation is because like a dog needs to shit, a dog just shit. We're driving around in our car and we're holding it in, or we're sitting in meetings that we're holding this stuff in
Mm.
instead of just like shitting when we need to shit. And
It
that's
creates
that's
a
how constipation,
blockage. It creates a
that's how
blockage.
constipation creates. And once you like recently my mom hurt her one knee and she was having trouble getting to the hospital, put something in the other knee, and then when she finally went there, her other knee was hurting because she was
Mm.
overcompensating for that. But all that stuff happens when you don't take care of this one thing. All of a sudden it just like goes, and it's the same thing for dealing with these corporations. It has to be like your body has to be a collective process. It has to be for the collective thing for Disney. I mean, for solving a
Yes.
problem for these
Yeah.
corporations. We can't all of a sudden say, oh, Starbucks is doing this in the world. Let me go yell at the person that's the barista. That person's like barely making it. They're stressed
Mm-hmm.
with like stuff. That might be a single mom, and you might be against yelling at single moms. Like it's like all this shit's connected. But we're all so wounded that we're moving in the world, and like road rage, we're channeling our inner Hitler.
Mm. Our inner unhealed warrior selves.
Hitler probably had the perfect parents. They were so nice to him that he went ape shit when the rest of the world didn't treat him that way.
And that's problematic. You can't have too much good in this world because you need a little bit of dark, a little bit of death and everything.
And we're challenged by this, a lot of this stuff going on by social media, but also we're able to connect with people all over the world because of
Right.
social media. But we're challenged by the fact that I'm not
We lose the
100
physical
years ago,
connection.
I would just be thinking about my family and people like on my block that were dying. Now I'm thinking about people in Pakistan that are dying. I'm thinking
Mm-hmm.
about people like all over the world that are dying.
Right.
And our modern brain has been at the same level as like has evolved in the
Mm-hmm.
last 1,000 years.
Right.
So we haven't, by our biology hasn't evolved enough to be able to handle all the death
Mm-hmm.
that we're seeing.
Mm.
And Arturo was like, right on, we need balance. Darkness at times builds character and resiliency. Justin, 100%. 100% is, that's why we're here, not just to complain about stuff, but to build
Right.
character. We're here to, first, between everybody that's on this podcast and listen, we're listening to hold ourselves accountable, opposed to complaining about what other people are doing in the world. And trust me, I am not absent of that. But most of the time, I try to, when I'm complaining about things, end with turning that stuff back in the mirror. Because
Mm-hmm.
that darkness that's going on in the world, I have more control. Don't have ultimate control, but I have more control of the man in the mirror and the people I've come into contact with, but primarily the man in the mirror.
Which at the end of the day, the world is a reflection.
Yeah, yeah. And I live this. My my
Mm.
my mom, she was having the knee problems, but she was getting busy after she got her knee fixed, and she fell.
Mm-hmm. Mm.
And I didn't rush over to the house. I was able to talk to her on the phone, see that she was fine. And then when I
Mm-hmm.
got home, I didn't say, "Oh, mom, how are you? Okay?" and everything. I gave her a TED talk. I told her that you need to be more responsible. Like I tell you some things and I don't tell you why I'm telling you some things.
Mm-hmm.
I go, if you want to live on this planet for 10, 20 more years,
Mm-hmm.
I go, you got I gave you exercise to just do 5 minutes a day. I give my mom
Mm.
like ultimate freedom. Like I don't do
Wow.
that. But what's not going to happen is there's not going to be any accidents because my mom's not communicating me about putting my niece in danger. That shit's not going to happen. I have zero tolerance for that. And yes, my mom gave me life and she did so much for me, but I have zero tolerance for people that are putting themselves in danger. But the more she does that, the more I've been getting breakfast for her, lunch for her, and like other things going out of the stuff
Mm-hmm.
that I'm working. I have rooms for adjusting it, but when I know that she's taking the proactive approach to helping it, it makes it so easier for me to do that because it's like, well, why should I do this? Because she's just gonna not pay attention, and that's with everybody. I'm not piling on my mom. I just know that my mom's not gonna watch this. So.
It's the closest scenario to home. Oh, I've never seen Doctor Strange.
Go ahead and read that.
It says,
Because
I feel like the perfect example is the Sorcerer Supreme in Doctor Strange to your topic. Can you explain why or how? I'm not familiar with Doctor Strange, but I'm curious to know.
Might take them a while.
It's okay. Take your time.
What does the one above that say?
Facts. Only ourselves are in control of our own action. Accountability is key.
And even Jewish people have been really good at pointing out the Hitlers of the world because of extreme, the extreme darkness that they went through.
And I bet you, I don't know why this just popped into my head, but I bet you, even within the Jewish community, there might even be a Hitler who's not willing to look at himself in the mirror and realize that they are indeed as well also a Hitler.
Well, Mark Twain. No, John Lennon said that we have a spark of Jesus and a spark of Hitler in us. So it's in all of us.
Mark Twain. He says, because she has to tap into the dark energy to keep the world safe from even darker energy. But her intentions are good. She has balance.
Beautiful. I have a good story that would be apropos for this. My oldest brother is allergic. His name's Mike. Is allergic to bees.
Oh yeah, this is a good one.
And when I was a kid, we used to go to the hospital and he would get shots. And then my curious self would ask, like, what's in the shots? And it was bee venom. So what he was allergic to, that's what he got in the shots.
They were microdosing it.
Microdosing. It helps you build up a tolerance.
Right.
For whatever you're doing. So your dream killers that you're complaining about, they're helping you build up a tolerance to fucking snap into what your Jedi truth. That's and we're not a cult. That's what I use, and that's how I feel about V. But you can find your own way for what that is, what your ultimate self is.
Thanks for the reminders.
And then you'll learn to tolerate them for tolerate these dream killers more.
Because we're human. We're flawed by design. The key to life is to being the best version of you and make the world a better place than it was when you got here.
Thank you, Justin. Sharing that.
Universe.
Yes.
So what stops people, well, obviously fear. Like what stops people from actually taking a step back and putting their dark selves in front of them and taking the steps to I wouldn't say correct.
See, I think you answered the question perfectly.
Yeah, fear.
It's fear. But what the thing is, most people, I mean, it's everybody, but most people all the time, and then some people break past it, is they acknowledge that they're fearful. That's an important thing, to be able to acknowledge.
Yes, this is yep. As in yin and yang, as humans, we are endowed with the ability to reason between good and bad. Therefore, we must accept all consequences of such actions. You know, for those of you who tuned in last week, we did have some technical difficulties getting on the live. And Steve, myself, and the magical unicorn Amanda, we actually held this conversation in private. And we talked about yin and yang and how that energy kind of balances each other out, right? And we have another comment here. It says, when people are comfortable, the ego doesn't want change, which brings fear.
So Arturo comes from martial arts. And being comfortable is one of the things that keeps us set in our ways. it's why we don't meditate. So people will come up with excuses. So that's what your question was. You were kind of asking like, what is it? But basically, it's
I have the
them
answer.
not be willing to be uncomfortable and be able to make that change. Because some people like have real life shit, bad shit happening to them, and they're comfortable with it because it's the fear they know opposed to
Mm,
the that they don't know. They've learned to tolerate
wow.
it for a while. So that's why I take cold showers. Another way to microdose the darkness. And even though I'm laughing while I'm taking cold showers, I fucking hate it. 2 years in, I fucking hate it. But it shocks my nervous system
Right.
and it gets me in an uncomfortable stage. And I'm laughing. I'm like laughing like a little kid when it's happening, but I fucking hate it. So before we've pocketed into these civilizations, humans used to be more nomadic. They used to be traveling around,
Mhm.
and the weather would change, and they'd be traveling to different places. And some people still do that, but we have the mortgage, we have the house, we have the rent. Our kids are going to that school and everything like that. So we're so comfortable in these things that we're not able to get out of that. So I've hacked my life that I have a lot of things that keep me uncomfortable. So I can embrace that change. So today, like when I was taking a shower today, all of a sudden I was like, oh, I'm gonna give the guy that edits my videos in Pakistan $25 a month because he does videos and stuff to take that $50, sorry, that $25 a week and invest it in helping out people in Pakistan and get video of it so I can have this as an example to show people how simple it is.
Mhm.
I would rather not. And I told them, I was like, no, if these people don't want to be on video, that's not part of it. You can just talk about what's going on. And it doesn't have to be every single thing because even from my point, I'm just like, oh, that's just an hour of doing Lyft to be able to fund that. But also I'm thinking an hour a week just of Lyft to do that. Okay, I'll work an extra hour. But also I'm thinking, oh, this is like something that when I'm speaking at colleges, I can talk about this thing that I can talk to people on the lift, how powerful this can be, these little changes.
Right. I mean, $25 in Pakistan can probably go a long way.
Yeah, yeah.
Kind of like if y'all choose to donate to our GoFundMe for Mama Coco community. $25 in Mexico te rinden, you know? You can do a lot of things with $25.
Plus, GoFundMe taking their money. Actually, we're paying them for their great site. So I like to put my hands on trees too. I've never been a tree hugger, but I like to put my hands on trees. And a good way of I'll give a story about how microdosing the darkness led me to. I had started Jedi camp, and there was a time when nobody showed up, and one guy had mentioned to another guy, and I'm saying a lot of guys and everything, and the guy shows up, and he's like, "Hey, I was supposed to meet here for Jedi camp," and I'm talking to this guy, and then all of a sudden I go, "This is the Unabomber in 20 years."
What the hell? Are you serious?
Yeah, his
Wow.
parents worked for the federal government.
Oh,
his
wow.
he was into guns.
And this
He
was at
hated
San Diego
he
State.
hated the federal government, and he was really smart.
Wow.
So I befriended him. He invited me back to his dorms. He's like showing me all this different stuff on it on the computer and everything. We used to go to hikes. At the time when this was happening, I didn't smoke. He used to smoke me out on these trips. Cannabis, I wouldn't be in the cannabis industry if it wasn't for that. So that's a positive that came from that.
Mm,
I was into like Fuego beats and a lot of different things, and I just like did it based on intuition and trusting it. I
mm.
learned a lot about it because he would study them.
Oh, wow.
He would research them, and I used to call it sound healing, but he would call it Fuego beats, and he was like, and he was the one that taught me that you could stack a bunch of Fuego beats on top of each other.
Oh.
And now, not giving his name, but now he's become more hippie, and he works because he was a Boy Scout, and he was able to do like
You influenced him. You said he's a hippie now?
Too. He influenced me too.
Wow.
He learned a lot because I look at it, I was like, okay, if you're the Unabomber in 2 days, you're not the Unabomber yet. So there's still time. He was the Unabomber in 20 years.
Wow.
And I was like, oh, I can work with this. So me being able to go into my darkness, I meet people at a certain place, and we're able to heal each other. He helped me ground my stuff. I hate to admit this, but I was a little judgmental against cannabis before that. I had to let go of some stuff on that.
Mm-hmm.
But also, when I expect people to have growth on stuff, and I expect people to be more inclusive, and I expect people to change, I don't apologize it because this motherfucker has. And I do more of that than telling people to do. And tell you the truth, I'd rather not tell people to do stuff. But I know we live in a world that a lot of us are broken.
Yeah.
And we need a little guidance. And maybe all this stuff that's going on in the world is just the reason for us to come together to fucking solve the problems of the world. Sustainable problems. Lots of people solving problems, but not sustainable problems.
Right.
Because there's less money in sustainably solving a problem. I mean, what if you woke up tomorrow and men treated women perfectly, and like all the Hispanic issues were gone? What would you do?
Shit, we'd probably be fighting with other females at that point.
You already are.
I know, but even more intense. Can you imagine that?
You guys just have common ground. You just have common ground. Talking about the men. That I made a joke for a longest period of time, but I believe it. That one of the reasons that grandchildren get along with grandparents because they have a common enemy. That's the person in between.
The parent.
Yeah. So
golly.
why did a lot of Jewish people very focused from something that happened years ago? Why have they like been pointing on the Hitlers of the world? And they haven't been perfect. Well, we're not going to go into that, but they haven't been perfect. But been poking on there because of what happened. Hitler hasn't been the worst guy. Stalin killed in probably the same amount of time, killed like 3 or 4 times more than Hitler did.
And nobody even talks about Stalin.
Some people do, but most, I mean, he's not.
Well, I mean, like, at least me thinking back into my teachings in high school, I don't even ever remember that name.
Yeah.
The only name they ever mentioned when I was in high school was Hitler. Why is that?
Because the Jewish people have been really good about talking about him. So I don't know the right numbers, and maybe somebody does, but it wasn't just Jewish people. It was like Hitler killed like 6 million Jews. And, well, the whole Hitler regime, the whole Nazis killed 6 million Jews, and there was like, as far as gays and like other people, it was probably up to 18 million.
Wow.
But the Jews have been better at telling the story.
Who's writing the story? The survivors, the people.
And as Arturo said, American history has been horrible too.
Right. Well, at the end of the day, it's who's telling the story, right? The survivors get to tell the story. They have power over the pen.
Yeah. Well, they say usually they say the winners tell the story, which you could say the survivors are winners.
Right.
They're both victim and winners. I mean, it's a powerful thing to survive. Um, and and it sucks being a human, and it's because we haven't evolved to a certain place. We got to see a certain amount of darkness in order for us to wake up. But if you want to be consistent in that, it's good to microdose the darkness. Like, I'm sure Arturo will give some great examples about martial arts
Mm.
and how they just put themselves continually in uncomfortable situations, so they're able to push their body to do stuff that's not natural, or maybe it's natural but we lost sight of it being natural because we're too comfortable.
They can choose what they want us to know and see. Yeah.
So social
Control this
media
narrative.
social media has helped us more, collectively, to be able to give voices to a lot of people that the people in control didn't give it. But it's still not perfect. But it's given us it's if it was like this, it's like this now. It's changed a lot, and I believe these computers and all that stuff sort of like tools of ignorance, but also they're like a very powerful thing that isn't necessarily anything wrong with it. It's that we are the ones that haven't evolved to catch up with it. Example, I was giving a ride to a passenger, and he was bragging the fact that he created a software that schools use that he can predict that a student's going to drop out. And he was in the back seat, and I felt him smile, and I got so fucking mad. Because immediately, as an artist, I like to use proactivist because I'm an activist that likes progress. So I came up with the phrase proactivist. Um, I'm like thinking that's students that are turn into meth addicts because they drop out. That's students because are suicidal because they drop out. That's students that go home and their parents tell them they're a loser because they drop out. I was like, dude, don't brag about that. Brag about influencing a solution that helps those students. If you can predict they're going to get out of school, you can make changes so they don't fucking get kicked out of school. Because it's fucking ridiculous how you're like, oh, just predict that. You know who spent a lot of money on fucking putting money in school? Fucking Bill Gates. You know, Bill Gates paid an organization to see what he was doing, and he pretty much, they said, you really haven't done anything. We're talking billions of dollars.
Oh, wow.
You know who has done a lot of stuff that people aren't even near receptive to, that has spent a fucking little money or no money? This motherfucker right here. And I'm not trying to say this to impress you. I'm just saying that we are so much greater than this. Even the biggest idiot that you know in your life is a fucking genius. We all were from a sperm race of millions of sperms, maybe billions, that made it to the egg. Well, that was part of us. It wasn't the whole us. I've heard it in that story, and I just noticed like how masculine that story was. I just noticed how masculine that story was, like in that moment. It's not my story, but I've used it on occasion. But I just noticed how masculine that story is. But those sperms that are half the person, and we even got the spirit in there, so we'll break it down between the feminine side, the masculine side, and the spirit. Swimming in there and making it to that race, and we have a planet full of everyone that had a part of them that won that race, and we're fucking dealing with shit like this. Like when I was born during the Vietnam War, and we just got out of Afghanistan, And Afghanistan is the same fucking thing as Vietnam was. I've been on this planet for 50 fucking years. And I'm not against the soldiers. I'm against war isn't the best fucking solution. Because you're not fucking solving the problem. And it's not authentic and real because, oh, countries are nicest to us. Oh yeah, they're not. The people were nice to Hitler. You know why? Because he would fucking kill you or have somebody
They were
killed.
scared because of fear.
Yes, Justin. I don't trust him either. And lots is coming out on Bill Gates. Lots is coming out on him. Yeah, because if you have all that money and you've had the influence that he has, and shit comes out on you, then something's wrong. Like, something's wrong. I'm not 100% on that. And Bill, if you're listening, go ahead and sue me. You can go fuck yourself. I will run circles around all your attorneys.
Yeah, he will.
And I don't even know how to spell law, but I will figure that out by the time I get to court.
Hey, Justin is studying law, so shout out to Justin.
Oh, nice.
He might be your lawyer.
Nice, Justin. Nice, Justin. That's awesome. I want to share with I'll share with you the Jedi Lawyer, the JediLawyer.com.
That's a
that
good
I'm working
resource.
on. I'll share that with you, Justin.
It's a wonderful resource.
Cool. Anything else? I think we're good.
I think this is a great one. Yeah, I think it's a good time to wrap up.
Yeah.
If anybody else has anything to add or any other questions, we're super excited to get this Mama Coco project up and out. So I hope you all can support and share on your stories, tag us. And if you know any businesses out in Mexico who you think would be good companies for us to reach out to, let us know.
Nice. Okay, cool. Thank you very much.
Peace, everyone.